Boys.
We made it.
Here we are. We made it. Eddie, do you know anything about our podcast yet?
Another thing, not one.
Another
I don't
friend
know
that
what
has.
we're talking about. I don't know. No, I've seen a bit of it. I've seen what you've sent me.
It's about basketball. It's all things basketball.
I've come ready with I've got my draft picks for the NBA.
Yes.
Right?
In the British Basketball League.
In the British basketball, yeah, the BNBA.
The NBA team.
The British National Basketball Association. Yeah. No, I don't know what we're talking about, but I assume it's to do with the things that we do for a living. I have guessed.
Warmer.
You're close.
Yes, 100%. So it's called Hollywood Beginnings.
I know that. I know.
We've had about like 34 episodes before this, I think.
Mm-hmm. It shows what a good friend I am of yours.
Yeah, you're really exposing yourself right now.
No. I've actually seen it. I haven't heard it on Spotify. I've watched the YouTube.
He mutes it, but he likes the visual of
I just like the look of you guys.
Yeah. Visual spectacle. No explanation needed. I'm honored. My own roommate Harrison won't get in 10 feet of distance to the podcast. He's allergic to it. And Jimmy Van Patten was our first guest a couple weeks ago, and he had no conception of what it could possibly be.
Perfect. And those are the closest people to you.
Those are the closest people to you. So it almost is a signal that you're close to me because of that. Exactly. Real quick, Eddie, you tell now that we noted. So sorry, I'll sum that up in 2 seconds. Our podcast is Hollywood Beginnings. Jacob's a director. I'm an actor. It's something that we think now that we're like a few years into this whole show business thing, it would be nice when you're starting out to hear what it's like from people like us.
Initially, we were just going to talk back and forth for years, and it was just going to be us. But at the end of the day, it's like that's far less interesting than bringing on guests. And the whole concept of the podcast, too, of like Hollywood Beginnings, why does it just have to be about our beginnings? We want to hear from other people. So we're honored to have you as one of our first guests. I just want to hear, too, can you guys provide some backstory on like how you met?
I want Eddie to give a little insight into our dynamic and stuff. Obviously, Eddie's my friend. Yeah. Not your friend, Jacob.
No, hey,
we're already better friends.
We're already pretty close.
5 minutes.
Yes.
I'd say pretty close. How did we meet? We met in a hilarious circumstances at drama school in Bristol. Yeah. We went to the Bristol Theatre School, which is up in Clifton in Bristol.
It's quite a legit program, yeah.
It's legit. You'd be surprised at how legit it is.
I'm surprised you got in, but
that's what I mean, and how unlegit we were.
Yeah.
But it was great, man. We had a really good time. We hit it off immediately. Both Duke and I had the same
affinity for the movie White Chicks.
We love the movie White Chicks. That's true. And Austin Powers. We have the same sense of humor, and we also have the same what's the word? I think it's very easy at drama school to get swept up in the like seriousness of what you're doing, but sometimes, especially with acting, there is a lot of fun to be had, and I think it's really important to have the fun. And I think we were pretty good at having the fun, I would say.
Especially an English program like that, like not to get too stereotypical, but when I think of like an American program versus like an English program, like the true actors come from England, right?
Wow.
The ones like versed in Shakespeare and all that stuff.
Jacob, anytime something like that gets said about like my British friends and stuff, they're always like shocked that is the American on it. And it truly is the point of view. Like I can't hammer it in enough to them that like everyone's like, oh no, the English actors those are the thespians. Those are the real actors.
I mean, that's probably one of the reasons you went to England for school.
It 100% is. It 100%.
But I also feel like that's the American looking at the English actors. You're looking at like, I'm assuming if it's that kind of thespian vibe, it's like Ian McKellen's, the Laurence Olivier's, the Patrick Stewart's, like
even Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Olivia Colman, the fact that they're like
Lewis,
they do comedy, and it's like, oh, but they're properly trained, oh, so sophisticated. I want to, before we get into this, I want to bring up how I officially, a really good story about Eddie, which I told him recently when we were with one of his buddies who's a big actress at the moment. And Eddie was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. And it was like so touching. But I think it's a really funny testament on my standpoint, because I wrote a half-hour comedy as well about like a kid that goes to drama school in England that's from LA. And this is kind of like the crux of it to me, like the double edge. What's so funny about the whole thing? First of all, so Eddie is one of those esteemed actors, especially to me at least. Like he went to a great university, acted all through school, was part of like the drama community or whatever. But the first day that I saw him in England, he was like such a just hilarious floppish person. Like he would like walk it. You're told at drama school that everything is structured, and it's your first day as a professional actor in the theater, and oh my gosh, it's so intense, and you have to be, that's why theater actors, you can always rely on them, the Jeremy Ironses, and they're always so strict and professional. They do their own makeup and such. Eddie seemed like he could care absolutely less, like a complete debaucherous, like, oh, it'd be like freezing outside. He'd come in with like a shirt that's 4 sizes too small for him, like just running to class.
I had no clothes.
Yes, that's the explanation for that.
All my money on going drum school.
And
I
so
wore shorts in Syracuse. So I went to acting school too. Not to talk about myself, but
no. By the way, there's a much bigger point to the story I was about to say. But
yeah, we'll get into it real quick. Yeah. But yeah, man, like the cold weather was just like you just put on whatever you have available. Like that was life back then.
I just had no clothes, and we didn't have a washing machine either. So, and I remember me and my housemate just used to live the most rank lifestyle at the time.
I just saw stories that like Rhys Ifans, the Welsh, very like prestigious actor that's hot at the moment, especially is on House of Dragons. He didn't even live in a real apartment. He was like homeless through drama school. So like it's very fringy. But
we got
Eddie,
some standards now.
Eddie was like debaucherous, hilarious, and everyone loved it. He knew everyone in 2 seconds. Like you just knew all these girls. You knew all these people from different unis, and people had acted together at unis, or like all friends of friends. England seemed very small to me in that sense. I was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, but these people can't possibly act. Because I was like, they don't take anything seriously. And then we do this thing on Fridays when we started out, where all the classes would get merged together. And I was in an international course. Eddie was in the 2-year British course, and then there's a 3-year British course that was generally like younger people that hadn't gone to uni already before it. And we would all get together, and you'd have to do like, they're like, okay, we're doing this week a thing on Shakespeare or a thing on Ibsen or any of these classical pieces, and we're gonna assign you a group of 5 people. You're gonna get a play, like a scene from a play, and you guys are all gonna have to act it out and figure it out in an hour. And so we would do that. And I remember distinctly this one time, we're all in like the same rehearsal space, and I'm not in Eddie's group, but I look across the room and I see Eddie had thrown away his lines. He had like taken it and he like tossed it. I'm like, that's I don't know what to make of that. Interesting. And I might have even stopped you. I'm like made a joke, like, don't need the lines, eh? He's like, I don't know, I need that much, I've already got them. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Next thing you know, it was like a 2-hander scene. Everyone's going. I was so nervous. I had never really like acted before at all necessarily, but I was like having fun with it. And but I didn't know what I was doing yet at all. And then I see Eddie and Felix. Felix is a huge homie as well. He had done, he was brilliant, but I since found out he did a really good directing course before that. So it just seemed like he really knew what he was doing. And Eddie and Felix go up in front of the whole class, and you see these 2 people who are so normal, don't act like actors, and yet this classical text, very intellectual stuff. I think Eddie was playing this character that was like disabled too, and he was in a therapy session, and they had everyone on the edge of their seat. It was like a vacuum. and it was really happening in real life in theater right before you. And the only thing I had seen before that in acting was these shitty acting classes in LA that I've gone to for like a summer or something, where everyone was so robotic and stuff and acted like actors and stuff. This was like, I was like, okay, these people are, they understand holding a mirror to life. Like, it was fun, it was interesting, it was
what a nice
drama. And that's when I saw that and knew that you were like a relatable, great dude. I was like, man, this is special. I'm so thankful that I'm here and getting to hang with all these people and learn, you know.
Wow, right. I mean,
that's
just
the intro. That's the intro.
Just someone needs to get like a love circle going on, a love triangle. I'm like, thanks.
I love hearing that you don't need to have a stick up your ass to be an incredible actor. That's
Dude, no way. Olivia Colman was the one that was like, because she went to Bristol too.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked her like, what's your technique? And she was just like, I have no technique. She was like, I do what kind of comes instinctively. And if you're like not a fun person, but someone that doesn't take themselves like I really don't find affinity with people that take themselves too seriously. Obviously, if they're a politician or a heart surgeon or a rocket scientist, I want those people to take themselves seriously. But I mean, like, in comedy or in acting or in writing, if you're writing to be kind of human vibes, I'm not really saying proper sentences right now, but what I mean is like,
even directing, like keeping the right vibe on set, keeping it loose.
100%.
You guys are both people too, like Jacob and I, especially since like pride ourselves on being so professional. Eddie, when you work with him on an audition, on anything, obviously on set or something, he's really intense to the point, and
I'm
so
aggressive.
Talented, creative.
I'm aggressive to work with.
You can frankly be aggressive. You could be a dick.
I can be. I like things. You got to put prep in. You got to put time in. You got to work.
Right.
The job. You got to hit the job.
Yeah.
100%.
Eddie.
But, yeah.
What was your intro into show business, creative life, etc.? Not, whatever you
from like young or from like into like professional life?
I mean, this is called Hollywood beginnings. So like how has your path been? Like, what inspired you? What keeps you interested? Is there any other, you've met you have so many successful friends and stuff too. Like, what's it been like for you? What hooked you in? Yeah.
God, okay. I would say, well, going to drama school really was good because I wanted to go to drama school when I left school, but I wasn't allowed to because my parents really were. Basically, there was a guy, I don't know if you know him, in LA. We had a politician who was from the Liberal Democrats called Nick Clegg, and he made the uni fees triple what they used to be. So now they're triple what they used to be.
I didn't know that.
The government was providing a lot of help on the uni fees for people, subsidized. Anyway, the last year of the fees being 3 times less was my year to go to uni. So my parents were like, if you don't go to university and you eventually want to, it'll be 3 times what it'll be if you just go now. So just go now. And then if you don't enjoy it, if you enjoy it and it's great, then you can go, and then you want to still be an actor, you can save money and you can go to drama school. Or if you want to not be an actor, which I think they were kind of hoping for, they were like, then you won't be an actor, and that's also good news. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm also very grateful for the student loan that the government are going to give me and go to uni. And then I went to uni, and then I still really wanted to just go to drama school, to the point where I was like auditioning for like RADA, Lambda, and Guildhall, which these are all drama schools in London, while I was doing my finals in the same week as doing my finals at uni. And it was just a nightmare. It was like a very stressful week of last rounds and then going back on exams and then going back, and then it was horrible. And then I ended up taking a year out, saving money, and then I applied for those 3 again, and then I added Bristol onto the mix because I had a year back in London after university, and then Bristol said yes before I even had recall to the other 3, and then I was like, okay, let's just go, because Bristol was great. And also Bristol's like a great city. Bristol is just a really, really good time, and had really great alumni, and it was just a good vibe. And so went there, and then that is just practice, practice, practice. You also see how good you are compared to other people, which is like highly helpful, because it will bring you either down or up, depending on, like, I went in with like quite low confidence actually, and then ended up leaving with more confidence in terms of like, people were great and you'd learn things from other people. And it was just practicing every day is a really, really good way of being good at anything. And you were acting every day, learning lines every day. And then I left. And then because you do so much in the day, because you spend like literally, it's like the army. I mean, it's not like the army. I mean, it's like the army in the sense that it's so regimented. You can't be late. You've got to do this. You end up feeling really, I was really restless when I left drama school. I was like, wow, I don't know how to use my time. Like, I need to be really productive. And then I ended up writing because of that restlessness while I was auditioning. And then writing has been the thing that I've actually held on to as like a more solid source of work since than acting. And I love acting and it's still there, but I like, you know, writing is a thing that I learned from being so productive with my day, which is like a skill I didn't really think I would ever kind of explore, really,
Right.
I suppose.
I don't think there's anything that an actor can do that will benefit them more than writing. Like, obviously everyone has their own process, but to be able to create material that even you could be in, it's like being in the driver's seat of your career, as opposed to like this whole passive idea of, oh, like I'm an actor, like I have to wait for an audition or I have to wait for someone to like, you know, deem me acceptable to be in a certain role. But like taking some of that control back, I think is really empowering.
Totally, man. I agree. And I think there's like a really, if you enjoy it, it's also super creative. Like, it's a really creative way of expressing yourself. It's also very hard because whereas acting is like so with other people, and I'm very much a people person, get energy from other people. Writing is so isolating and like alone, and that feeling of like, oh, I'm gonna go insane. I like have not left my bedroom for hours on end.
Right.
But you have to do it. It's like grinding out an essay in a way. Sometimes getting a deadline. Deadlines are great. Deadlines. That's my other thing. Deadlines are really good. They're so horrible, but they are really good because they get you there in the end.
Yeah, you can take forever to just kind of chip away at like an idea, and then it's a year later and you're like, oh shit, like I haven't actually made any progress. But I love hearing from writers who are disciplined, because it is like inherent in being a writer. You have to be so fucking disciplined, because I think it's one of the hardest things to actually be putting into practice on the daily. What is your regimen like? Have you had the same kind of thing since drama school? Or
I mean, my routine now is
tell us what you've written and stuff and what you're doing.
So at the moment I'm actually really in a very lovely busy place, but I'm also what comes with that is that feeling of like overwhelming, I'm not going to reach any of the deadlines I have, because I'm like spreading myself out too much. But so I wrote a play when I left Bristol. So I'm on the back end of like a flu, so I'm just kind of got an itchy cough, but it'll be calm.
Wait, does your shirt say Malibu?
Yeah, I wore it for you.
I'm curious.
Iconic.
First of all, that's incredible.
I said I'm gonna wear my Malibu shirt because it's for the
It's the first time I'm thinking of it.
Yeah, I actually bought it today.
Valley.
No way. I got some Valley.
Oh, the Valley.
I knew that was a Valley. I knew that was a Valley.
You had a feeling.
I should have had my cap. My cap's not here. I've got.
I'll assume you still have your hoodie with you too.
I'll wear this one. This is like not the same, but at least it looks a bit more LA. I look a little bit more.
In England, everyone just wears stuff that like has something to do with the States in some random way, shape, or form.
Branding. Everything.
I love the Malibu shirt. Did you get that in Malibu?
No, dude, I got it today.
Right.
No shit.
I got it in London. I'm not in London. I got it in Canterbury, which is a town near here, near my mum.
Heard of the Duke of Canterbury?
Duke of exactly, the famous Duke of Canterbury. Yeah.
Naturally. All right. With all that said, back to
What was the question? What was the question?
Something about writing disciplines. You're spreading
Oh, yeah.
yourself too thin. You have a lot of shit going on.
And what you're working on.
So,
And about your play.
Okay, so so as a writer, I wrote a play when I left Bristol straight away.
Mm-hmm.
That play luckily did quite well and which was lovely. And then it fueled the next play, which gives, and it's always good when things hit because you need your early stuff kind of to land, because then if it does, you have the confidence to make the next thing. And then if the next thing doesn't land, you're kind of like, that's okay. Whereas if your first thing doesn't land, it's tough because you're like, maybe I'm actually not that good at this, which is the wrong mental attitude, but I'm a weak mental, undisciplined man. So I need that little bit of confidence.
Writer feels that way.
We all need our wins. We all need our wins.
100%. We're all actors. You need the applause at the end of the show. Otherwise you're like, what's this?
Sure.
And so after that, I wrote another play, which is called Fiji, which is the play that we've actually had going on now for, I would say, Duke, I would say years. You've heard about it for maybe, I'm gonna say like maybe 3 or 4 years. This play. But it's been a really good time. And it's a play. So my kind of niche, I suppose, as a writer is I write about quite dark stuff or like true crime stuff.
Love it.
And but in a kind of hopefully accessible, light-ish, naturalistic-ish way.
I would assume sort of White Lotus-ish.
You kind of White Lotus-ish, but a bit more.
Even less tongue-in-cheek, maybe.
I find White Lotus kind of tough. I mean, I really like season 2. I watched season 1 and I was like, I find these characters really hard to love. And you know how like It's Always Sunny has characters that you're meant to kind of be like, these guys are awful, but they're so funny that you're like, they're lovable. And White Lotus,
and they are kind of genius in an evil way.
Yeah. And White Lotus season 1 was great, but I think I don't know. You know the difference?
I'm with you. It's tough. I still think they're both pretty entertaining though. They're better than most stuff. Yeah.
And I was very entertained. I don't know why I'm bad mouthing it now.
No.
I'm not saying. Anyway, point being, this play is about an old story which happened in 2001 in Germany of a man that put an advert online saying he wanted to be eaten, and a dude replying to it saying, I would love to eat you, which is a real story that happened in 2001.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
That's
what Elon should be filtering on the web.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's in a chat room that you can get easy access to.
Well, I don't think. Elon can make it easy. Anyway.
But there is a like a pop culture thing around this incident that happened. Right. And because it's like a fascinatingly interesting introspection on like consent, because they're 2 adults that were both willing to do this thing. They did it. In Germany, there's a law called love euthanasia, which is kind of, I think, unique-ish to like Germany and maybe a couple of other countries, but it's not a big law at all. It's not like a national, national. But in love euthanasia, if someone says, I want you to kill me on record, so like film, say on this podcast, I said to you now, I want you to kill me. And then killed me, you would have license to go to jail for love euthanasia, which is like a 3-month, 4-month sentence, as opposed to murder or manslaughter, because I have asked for it. So in Germany, this cannibal came around. No, sorry, the I don't want to say victim because he asked for it, but like the dude went around to the cannibal's house, recorded everything was filmed, and the guy killed and ate him. And then they had to make a law to make cannibalism itself a crime, because it wasn't actually illegal. It wasn't like in the book.
Right.
Yeah. And
how it takes that to cause something.
I know. So it was a really interesting case. And then we wrote a play about, myself and 2 others wrote a play about that happening today, modern day, in like very 2 millennial dudes in their kind of late 20s, 30s, who hopefully seem very amicable, likable, not like they're like out of their minds completely.
Right.
And just exploring like the themes of consent and like, if we like the characters and we like what they want to do we like want them to do it, or do we want them to like? Are we still like appalled by what they want to do?
So
yeah, it's crazy. It was crazy, but it's a very, what's good about the show's called Fiji, and what's good about it is it's kind of it just gets a lot of people talking about like subjects that are what's the word? It's like we basically present like a love story, but it's like a love story because it's like that. It's a very tender, pardon the pun, like sweet thing.
All right.
I don't know.
May I side note? Not spend too much time on this because there's other stuff too, but I've not gotten to talk to you that much about Fiji. First of all, have you noticed, I'm sure you have, how trendy this whole cannibalism thing is at the moment?
Dude, I want to say we started it. I want to say we started it.
Probably inspired Army Hammer too.
I know, dude, and there's been a lot of it. Did you see Bones and All? That's come out.
It's out, right? Have you not seen it?
No, I saw it. I actually went to the premiere of that.
I saw some content.
Seemed strange, but I think it's because they knew that I was writing about cannibals, and they were like, "You should come.
You're in the circle.
I'm in the cannibal circle. You should come."
Be careful.
And I was slightly worried that it would be the play on screen when I went.
Yeah.
It
wasn't.
It's not. It's a very different.
I've never seen a take like that, and I think it's more. I mean, it's whatever perception you take on it. But it's more disturbing the fact that it isn't someone completely whacked out of their mind, because then it's like you do start to empathize with these characters, and then you do start to ask those questions. And I think that kind of art is really powerful, where it's like you might have one completely different perspective or feeling on something, and then by the end of it, you're like questioning yourself, and is this really how I feel, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. And if there's no victim, like that's really the thing, that if no one's like harmed by and I mean harmed as in like, if this guy says all I want to do is be eaten, if you didn't eat him, he would probably still be suicidal, because you have to be dead to be eaten, so he'd probably still be suicidal. So you kind of eliminate this, like, I'm taking you out of something that you want to do. Really what the cannibal should have said is go seek some mental help. Go seek therapy, and that's what he should have done. But because these are adults and they're in their 40s, you know, it's a hard one to kind of. How'd you stage the eating? I'm curious if that was such a thing. That we actually don't. We get to the point of death. Okay. The eating is implied. Fair enough. Is there any place we can watch this down the line? The play? Brits? You know what? There are some people putting on the play in England and in Canada and in Italy this next year in 2023. Those damn Italians. So you can go see their productions, and I would actually love you to go to the Canadian one. I know that's still not very near you, but but I think we might do it again. You don't want to film it? You don't want to film it just like Candid? Oh, we filmed it. Yeah, if you want to see the you can see that. I got no expectations. Dude, you can see it. We filmed it a while ago. We filmed it in March, I think, this year. All right. We'll be putting the link in the script notes. Of course. Pod notes. No, I don't know.
You don't have those yet.
And then, all right, moving on.
I just want to say I love that concept though. It's super high concept. I didn't know it was trendy at the moment. I love me some cannibal content, so I'll look out for all that stuff. But man, I would love to like read it, or if you ever want to. Yeah, man, you're welcome to read it. I'm, but it's led to more work around subjects of that ilk. So like ilk. I'm writing about cults at the moment. Yeah.
And a European cult. I'm writing a film at the moment about a cult, which is the thing. You know about this film, right? And some other cool projects, which are all kind of around these like fairly dark, fairly true. They're all true, based off real stories, stuff, which is all really interesting. And like, humans are like, when people like make up stories, obviously that's amazing, and people can make up beautiful, wonderful, interesting stories. But the weirdest shit, the most like unbelievable shit, usually has already actually happened in the world. Where you're thinking like, you can't make that up, Yeah, dude, you're like, I can't believe the story, and it's true. Like, there's so many crazy things just that happened, and you just explore it in a way that's like, I don't want to replicate this exact story, but I want to just use the trueness of what happened and then present it with new characters, and then you kind of play with it. And was cool.
For you, what's the difference at this point between writing a play versus writing it for TV or a movie?
Writing for a play is, I would say, is a lot more contained because you know the limits of the production, not limits, but I mean like the boundary, like, so you can't, you can have the problem with TV and film is you can set it any way you want, anytime you want, with any amount of actors or characters, or like your scope is so ridiculously anything that it's very hard. You can have animation, you can have it all in, like anything. So it's really hard actually to be like contained, whereas in theatre you're naturally contained. You know how many actors you want, you know you've got an hour or 2 hours, and you know that you're going to be within the confines of a stage, and you kind of go from there. So I would say theatre is a lot I don't know if easy is the word, but like a lot more
smaller scope, seemingly, unless you get more abstract about it.
But also, like, you could flip it and say, like, you know, if you look at like Angels in America, which is like the best thing, you could look at that and say there's no scope at all, and that's why it was so amazing. So like there's so many different ways of
but that's generally something that enters your mind when you're thinking of the different mediums.
Because whenever I start writing a project now, I go immediately, what's the story? And then the story, does that story suit TV? Like, do we need, like, is it a massive story and we need like 6 or 8 episodes to explore the whole thing? Is it going to be short and concise, but still with a massive scope in terms of time and location and everything? In which case a film would be good. And if it's going to be like contained, can I do it like, there's a wonderful play called Bad Jews. I don't know if you've seen it, by Joshua Harmon. Have you guys seen it?
No, I want to check it.
It's amazing. It's all set in one location, which is like my kind of favorite kind of play. Real time, hour and a half, set in one space.
Talkie.
Those plays are kind of like my favorite ones. Annie Baker is another amazing playwright who writes that kind of stuff. But anyway, I've spoken so much crap. Sorry, I'm just kind of spouting.
It's late.
Gold.
It's late,
man.
It's all you want.
So self-indulgent.
Is the play scene pretty strong in England or London? Because I mean, obviously in New York you get some of that scene, but it's predominantly, I feel, musicals. But if you want to be a playwright, is London the place to be?
I don't know. Compared to America, I don't know. I couldn't say, but I know that in London, like there are some wonderful theatres in London that will give young, or not even young, but just new first-time playwrights a chance. And that's really the best thing you can ever get when you first write a script, is getting an artistic director of a theatre, of a space to read it and actually read it, and then give you their opinion.
In London, I was blown away by the amount of people that like come from, there's this thing, the National Theatre of England, and it has so much history. And then a lot of kids coming up will do their youth theater or youth theaters of a lot of different places. And like, those are very sought after programs where like you will have a path kind of to becoming a professional, acting person, whatever. But and there's just such an industry for it that I don't know. They really push it. How is Edinburgh? And then everyone that's like writing and acting, doing comedy, doing horror, doing anything, does the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland every year. You can like put on your own play. Eddie's done it like the last like forever. How was it? Yeah, the last endless amount of time. How is doing Fiji this year for it? Because I saw you right before it when you were prepping.
It was good. It was good. I went out to LA just before Jacob. When was I with you at Duke and LA?
I must have been like
May,
June or something. Yeah.
I went to Edinburgh in August. Yeah, and it was great, dude. It's the Edinburgh Fringe is the best thing because everyone, I mean, there's a lot bad about it actually. It's very financially tough, like super tough, and we couldn't have gone unless we were produced by the Pleasants, who were a kind of theatre there that asked us to go, and we actually said no because of money, and then they said we'll give you some help, and then they did, which is great. So I think it's very hard to go, but because people like work their asses off to get enough funding to go, usually people that are there are putting on work that's like so bold, so cool, very new usually, or like very like, this is what I've like worked on, what do you think? And it's eclectic. You'll see some crap. I mean, there's like a lot of bad stuff, but there's a lot of amazing stuff, and it's all, you see like 5 shows a day, It's all there. It's like, I couldn't recommend it enough to anyone.
And it's almost like music festival-esque too, like you're partying the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a good time. The night, you know, everyone's in the same kind of energy of we're on this kind of fun tour vibe, which is good.
Eddie,
Yeah.
is there one piece of advice, like if you could go back to the whole start of this, and to anyone who's listening or watching who wants to follow in a similar path, wants to act, wants to write, all those things, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to them or your younger self?
Oh, dude, what a question.
Yeah. It's winding down, so we got to end.
No, sorry. Okay, my advice would be
You on the spot.
keep
Yeah.
going and make your life fun, or make your life, you know, be happy in your life without stopping. So I think a lot of people get to a point where they're like, I have to stop this to be stable or whatever, but you can always have it going. Like I've taken jobs where I've been like, I'm out of the game. I've like checked out, I'm doing other work. And then a month will go by or 2 months will go by and I'll be like, oh, that's a cool idea. And I'll write something and then I'll send it to someone and then like that'll move. And then like, so I just think don't stop. Just because you're also keeping going all the time doesn't mean it has to be your night and day. You know, you make it work for you, like you would with anything, like you would with a gym routine, like you would with a diet, like you would with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner. Like you've got to just make it like fit in with your life. It doesn't have to be your entire life if it's not hitting. And if it's hitting, keep running with it and keep making money and keep trying to, you know, and say no. That's a really big one. Say no to the right things to say no to. Don't always feel like you have to say yes to everything. I think
that's huge. And that'll save a lot of people from burnout too. And
yeah,
Duke is always 100%. Duke is also always talking to me about the importance of balancing your life and having this not be the only thing that you're focusing on. I think it's a great perspective. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good news.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys are nailing it. You're doing this podcast, for example. I mean, Valley mentality. We've got the branding right there. That's Duke, like being creative without burning out.
That's it. It's everywhere. Next time you're in LA, we should definitely hang out.
1,000%, dude. 1,000%. I'm gonna be there soon. I'll be there in 2023.
Cool.
I've got some meetings. I'll be staying with the D boy. I'm imagining we'll probably be hanging out. So almost definitely. So well, I'll be there, Jake. I'd love to meet you, bro.
Thanks for hopping